Alright guys, so today we have some very early gameplay from Monster Energy Supercross Game 3. Here we're going to start with the rider customization. You can choose your male or female rider, and then you can choose your name, your number, the color of your number, all the stuff you're used to doing. The first thing, unfortunately, is the font is all the same. It's the same as it has been in the past, 3 or 4 games. That's really unfortunate. Maybe they'll change it for the final version, but for now, it's still the same. I really hope they add to it. I mean, it's a tiny detail, but sometimes it's the tiny details that add up to really make a difference. So hopefully they can change that. I'm assuming you'll be able to choose rider face models, all that, but they didn't have it in this version of the game. Pretty much it was like a demo. You had 2 tracks, you could choose 450 riders, and you could make your custom rider here, choose the bike you wanted, and I mean, that was basically it. You could see track editor, you could see customization, like full bike and rider customization. You could see career, but it was all grayed out. It was locked. You couldn't access that part of the game, so it's fine. I mean, you were able to play a decent amount of just the core gameplay, which is the important part, right? How's the gameplay? How does it play? So yes, we're gonna finish up here and then switch over into a race with our custom rider. Now here with the helmets there, you kind of caught a glimpse of it. It almost appears that you'll be able to customize your gear a little bit more, maybe. Like I saw a sticker and some custom text, I guess. Maybe they're going to have you be able to customize your rider a little bit more to make it feel like maybe you'll feel more invested in your own custom rider if you can customize it more. I just thought that was a little bit interesting. We couldn't actually get into it, but let's start at the beginning. How did this all happen? So Milestone invited a bunch of YouTubers out to Las Vegas for the Monster Cup and put everyone up in the Hard Rock Hotel. They had studios there where you could play the game and capture gameplay, and you had time slots to do it, 2 days. For 2 days to record, and then go to the media day on Friday, then the actual race on Saturday, and VIP access, VIP viewing area. You got to track, walk. It was just a really great experience. Veronica went for me. Now, bear with her. I feel like she did a pretty damn good job at recording, actually. She's played every Milestone game. She's not hardcore like a lot of us, I guess, that play these games religiously, so I feel like she did a really good job. This first gameplay is... There's some moments where you're going to be like, ooh, you're going to be like, ooh, but I feel like she did a really good job. The next gameplay you're going to see is Eli Tomac from Houston. And that was really solid gameplay. I think not bad. Keep in mind, she had standard physics and pretty much all the riding assists on. So the gameplay will probably be a little bit different with the pro physics. And I mean, she paces the heck out of some of this stuff. And I feel like if you had pro physics, it'd be easier for you to go down. So I have the video split up though into sections where we're going to talk about stuff. I know you want to talk about the whips and the physics and all that, but we will get to it. The first thing I want to say is one about the track. The tracks here, you don't notice it as much, but at Houston it feels like for the whoops and the straights, the track is normal width. It's normal width, but in the rhythm sections, or some of them, feels like they deliberately made the tracks wider. Maybe accommodate new players that, when you first started playing, you kind of get that fighting the bike left to right, and then you're off the track. It can be a bit frustrating, but I feel like they made some of the rhythm sections really wide. Really wide to accommodate, you know, the left to right down an entire rhythm section. So I don't know if I'm a fan of that, but you know, we don't know what it'll be like in the, we don't really know what it'll be like in the final version. I hope it's not that wide for every track, but we only had 2 tracks. Here at Anaheim, I don't notice it as much, but at Houston, you will see it a bit. The other thing is this track is muddy. This is Anaheim 1. This track is actually wet. It's not raining, but it is wet. It doesn't appear to be because it's alpha. I'm sure they'll touch up on that and make it really feel as if it's muddy. Well, it felt muddy. She said it felt very muddy. It was a lot harder to ride this track, but it doesn't look muddy. You know what I mean? So I'm sure that'll be changed. The lighting, after looking at both of them, the lighting is different in this game as opposed to the third game. Now maybe that'll be adjusted and changed too, but as of right now, the lighting is different. And today or tomorrow, you will see a direct comparison side by side of both games. But remember, one's a finished product and one is an alpha. Now, the last thing I kind of want to say before we move over to something else is that the rider, his upper body, his torso, his back feels too wide. It feels too wide, and the proportion of the character to the rider feels off. The lower body doesn't really bother me, but, well, it does, but not for that reason. The upper body feels too wide. It's like his back is too wide or maybe a bit too tall. It just doesn't feel like it fits the bike sometimes. Not all the time, but maybe it's whether you're leaning back or forward or whatever. It feels like the rider isn't as proportionate as they were in the second game. The other problem I have is if you look at the lower body, his legs are like his knees. The knees are pointing outwards, so they're not grabbing the bike. So it's like he's just riding with his upper body 100%. He's a WWE wrestler and he's just manhandling the bike with only his upper body. I mean, look, the legs are never really, it doesn't ever feel like they're really pinching the bike. He's like man spreading permanently. It's like permanent man spreading on the bike. I mean, I'm not a fan of that. They really need to tighten that up a little bit. I mean, that's just first impressions and first look at early build. Maybe they will change that, but I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I've been watching it so much that maybe I don't notice it as much, but I know when I first saw it, it felt like he was too loose with his legs with the bike. So let's switch over to the Tomac gameplay. That is the best gameplay from Houston. All right, so here we are. We are switching on over into the Tomac gameplay, and I feel like she did a very good job here. I mean, yeah, here, first lap is maybe a little bit sketchy, but overall, it's she did a very, very good race here, and I feel like was able to capture how the game really plays if you're actually the lines the way you should. Hitting the sections of the track the way they should be taken. So yeah, on that rhythm section and this rhythm section, I feel like the track is too wide. I feel like it's very, very wide. I already mentioned that. And here I feel like you can see it a lot easier. Even here, it's like really, really, really wide. I don't know. Maybe it was like that in real life, but the scaling of the width of the track it's just too wide. I feel like it's too wide. I guess it's not that big a deal, but it is something that I felt like was worth pointing out. That if you go back and compare, it feels like you could have 5 bikes wide here. It's so, maybe 7 bikes. It's so wide. So wide. And then Anaheim was narrow. Felt better. But here it's like, geez. Yeah, in between this Tomac gameplay, you're also going to see Justin Brayton gameplay from Anaheim. That gameplay is really ugly, but the point, what she was trying to do was I asked her was to basically whip the bike, try it, and just test out the free physics in the air. You know, when you move the rider to the left or to the right, but you don't actually whip. She was testing that out too. I mean, you see a little bit of whipping here, but yeah, I kind of want to talk about the physics a bit. From what I understand and what she has said and what I'm seeing, I don't know if I already said it, but they supposedly redid the game from scratch. They threw away everything they had before and are starting new. And it definitely appears to be different, and it is an alpha, but I kind of assume that the core gameplay that's here will be very similar to how it is in the final game. And again, she has standard physics, so you probably would crash if you case like that with pro physics, but that's not the problem I have. What is a little bit different or odd or off to me, and you'll see with the Brayton gameplay, or maybe you already saw some, is that it does appear that you have the whips feel very similar. They look similar, they feel similar. You can control the whips with leaning the stick forward, but it's the same mechanic. Pull the sticks apart, push them together for your whip. Same mechanic, not completely free whip. And when you do that, like I said, you can push the stick forward to kind of manipulate the whip a little bit, so it's not always the same every time. It's very similar to how it was in Supercross the Game 2, but the freeness of the bike in the air when you're not whipping looks a bit different. It does appear that it is more free. You can turn the bike way more sideways than you could in the second game, but it feels weird. It feels so... It appears that you can turn the bike more sideways, almost like a whip, kind of. But how do I want to say it? Yeah, he just feels so stiff. His body doesn't really move. I mean, if you lean back and turn it sideways, he kind of lifts up on the bike, similar to most Milestone games. But if you just turn the bike sideways, it feels so stiff, and it feels just unnatural, you know? It doesn't look like a natural movement that you would do on a bike in the air, you know what I mean? So I feel like you need to adjust on that to some degree. The whipping, I mean, it's if the pushing the sticks together, pulling them apart is Milestone's thing, then okay, you know, I get it, that's your thing. I'll live with it. It would be nice if you could free up the air physics, which it kind of appears they did a little bit, but it just still feels very stiff. I know I've said that a bunch, but I kind of want to drive that point home, that it still feels very stiff. I do want to mention, after saying all of that, that Veronica did say that the control of the bike and rider did feel more fast, more loose. She said in the beginning she was overturning. Even though I say it appears to be stiff in some parts of the gameplay, it does feel or appear, and based off of what she said playing, they have loosened up the controls a little bit everywhere, I guess. Some in the air. I did say that it does appear that you have a little bit more control in the air over the bike and rider, and on the ground, just trying to come out of a corner, and then a little bit odd, you can, when you correct yourself, the ability of trying to correct on the ground is looser. So since she had been playing 2, this one did feel more free, quick, loose, however you want to say that. So there is that too. Ground physics, as far as turning, there were no ruts that grabbed you like MXGP 2019. They probably could have done that, but I feel like they do that for the sake of the casual player. They're trying to reach 2 different crowds here, so they're trying to find a happy middle point. Yeah, the ruts, there was no, at least in the alpha version, they might add it. Remember, they might add it later, but as in the alpha version, the track was basically just smooth. It wasn't ruddy, and the cornering was easier. It was easier, well, with standard physics at least, it was easier than maybe even easier than the first game. Almost too easy, because you could jump in completely sideways and it didn't really affect you. It's really smooth. It just, I don't know. It felt a lot easier, smoother, I feel like. So there you go. That is kind of my thoughts on the physics, and you can kind of see and be a decider of what you think after looking at it. We're gonna switch over into rider roster. So here you're going to see the rider roster. The 250 was unavailable. It was grayed out. And if you're not familiar, this is the roster and the teams that were from last year, okay? Not this year, not current season, last year. So, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty extensive list. I don't know if they have more. Definitely they don't have less. So, yeah, it just kind of goes through this really quick, and you can see who the rider that, if your favorite rider's in there. Now, no Ken Roczen. From what I understand, it sounds like they would have loved to have had him in the game, but it sounds like it's some kind of conflict with Honda's contract. I really don't know, but yeah, no Ken Roczen in this year's game, or this coming year's game. So then at the very end, I wanted to show you the menu where you can choose whether it's pro or standard physics, the length of the race, all that stuff. Finally, we're going to wrap it up with some female gameplay. It's going to be very similar to how it is with the male, just female rider. Veronica chose to use Yamaha. Chose Yamaha here, and then actually it looked maybe we edited the Yamaha gameplay out. It must have been a little bit ugly. Yeah, she's nothing changes the gameplay. The gameplay is the same, but you have the option to choose the female rider, which is great. I mean, it's great. They had it. Everybody says they had it in Ride 1. They really have it in the first Ride game. I know they had it in 2, I guess, and for sure 3. But they finally implemented it into Supercross, I guess. So cool to see they added that in, and I figured, hey, it's new, so let's check it out. Oh, we got all 3 teammates right there. All 3 teammates battling, keeping it really clean. But, yeah, I mean, some female gameplay. We won't play this too long because, I mean, it's the exact same as the male-female, or the male gameplay. It's just female rider. Teammates getting a little, ooh, going inside on Cooper Webb there, trying to take the lead. But, yeah, I mean, that's kind of my overall first impressions and first look and how I feel about the game and what I feel like it's, the state it's in right now. I mean, all of this is very subject to change, and we don't really know what the final version is going to be. I mean, I'm assuming they probably have some beta already, but what they sent over was a very basic version of what they were happy with for an alpha. So, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely a lot of stuff I feel like for sure needs to be touched up and addressed a little bit. The problem, I mean, the air physics, the ground physics don't really appear to bother me that much. I actually don't think the ground physics will be the problem. I think a lot of people that probably were hoping to have Supercross 1 ground physics will probably be happier with these, but guys that were happier with 2 might not be as happy with these. I don't know. And the game might change a lot by the time it releases. I know some of you guys are going to be super negative and say, nothing ever changes, it'll never change, blah, 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 blah. But I remember MXGP2. The first time I saw that, which was just like 3 months ahead of release, it looked bad. It looked really, really bad. And by the time it came out, it wasn't that bad. They actually had improved it a lot. It can improve. It really can improve if you're not happy with it the way it is. There's plenty that I really, really need to see changed. If you're not happy, it could be a lot different by the time it releases. And remember, they said they redid it from the ground up. I know there's a lot of similarities, obviously, because it's made by the same company, but they did redo it. Milestone team self said it. Later today or tomorrow, you're going to hear the interview from them. But we'll just have to wait and see how the game shapes up until its release date. So you guys and girls are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for the support on the channel lately. Let me know what you guys think. How do you feel about this? It's a discussion. We're a community. If we need to see things changed, we need to get that out there and really let Milestone know that we need to see these changes. So yeah, you guys and girls are absolutely amazing. And until the next video, take it easy.